And that you're safe, and what's the latest where you are?
Well, my goodness, it was a crazy night. We saw winds gusting up to 111 miles per hour. So in other words, more than 160 kilometers per hour. Near me, that had gusted 204. So we weren't in the worst of it, but it was pretty darn bad. We got that for about 3 hours time. Fortunately, the eye wall passed just to our east, but it decimated communities like Lake Charles, areas over near Sulphur, Louisiana as well. And I visited those places earlier on, and I can tell you the damage rivaled exactly what I see when I chase tornadoes in the plains in the spring.
All right, so tell me as well, as it gets downgraded from a tropical storm and it moves inland now, what we're going to see.
Well, for the most part, it's more a rainstorm at this point. We could see about 5 to 8 centimeters worth of rain in a few areas. The wind gusts have come down to around 80 to 90 kilometers per hour, so not as bad as it was. And the good news, because we're inland, no surge threat. But the interesting element of this, it looks like eventually this system will move off the coast and redevelop over the Atlantic, east of the Delmarva Peninsula, east of Washington, D.C., south of New England, and potentially form a new tropical cyclone. Obviously not all that terribly strong, but still, it could continue churning on as Laura.
Yeah, and as you're talking to us, Matthew, we're showing some video from overnight, and you just see, as you were saying, how bad it was, and all of that water and all of the wind as well. You were talking to us a little bit about some of the damage you've seen as well. You know, it's so difficult to kind of properly prepare for this kind of thing. I mean, you know it's coming, but you're never quite sure what you're going to get until it hits.
Yeah, one of the things that really struck me was when yesterday I fueled up at a gas station, and it seemed like a pretty well-built, sturdy building. And this morning, I drove about 10 kilometers west to go to the same gas station again, and the entire thing was in shambles. There was a building right next door. There was a steel truss building, and those are susceptible to winds right around 150, 160 kilometers per hour. The entire thing had just completely collapsed. It was in on itself and completely uninhabitable. And this was not an isolated incident. These were many buildings across the area wide, mobile homes like that. I saw tractor trailers flipped. And one of the things that really struck me, the highway, Interstate 10, the big thoroughfare here, goes east to west. Now, because I was in the region that was on the western side of the eye wall, winds were coming in from the north. And that meant if you were on the southern side of the highway, meaning the easterly track, you were all right. But all the trees, as they were falling north and south, fell on the westbound side of the highway, which means it was almost completely impassable. 3 lanes wide, only one was open, and at times I had to go in the median just make it from exit to exit. Wow.
Okay, I have another question, too. When we spoke a little earlier this week, you know, we were talking about Marco and Laura. You know, this is going to be a particularly active hurricane season, coming up. And here we are, you know, just 3 or 4 days away from September. What are your predictions as a meteorologist?
Unfortunately, I think what we see is what we get for the time being. We'll see more tropical cyclones likely in the next 2 or 3 weeks as this busy period of enhanced activity continues. Part of the reason, thanks to something we call a convectively coupled Kelvin wave. Sounds scary. Basically, it's this enhancement in the rising motion over the Atlantic. And as a result, that will increase the propensity for the Atlantic to develop more tropical cyclones. In addition, it's just so warm and humid across much of the Gulf Coast, and the Gulf of Mexico is anomalously warm, as is much of the ocean. We're probably about 32, 33 degrees Celsius in the Gulf of Mexico, only having cooled down a little bit from Laura, so plenty more fuel to get these storms going, and already we're watching 2 more systems barrel west towards the Lesser Antilles.
Matthew Cappucci joining us from Texas. He's a meteorologist for the Washington Post.